When you see Congressman Donalds facing this interview, you're going to be just as high as Metallicus on Metallicus as I am. So we're going to review today an older interview with Congressman Bryon Donalds and Metallicus CEO Marshall Hayner. You don't want to miss this, but first, cue my guy Indigo Saint. Let's get it. Boom. Let's get it. Indigo Saint in the building. Blackrue Investing. Let's go.
Who's this producer?
Best believe I was Blackrue Investing. With your money, you ain't gotta be guessing. Profits is what we manifested, so we binge on that Blackrue Investing. Best believe I was Blackrue Investing. Got course in this race, we ain't resting. We got stocks, we got crypto with a blessing. So thank God for that Blackrue Investing. Best believe I was Blackrue Investing.
What is up, Blackrue Crew? We're in here on a recorded video. Here we got our partner DCENT Wallet. Now, your crypto deserves the best protection, so why settle for less? DCENT Crypto Wallet isn't just another wallet. It's safe, secure, easy to use, and supports your favorite cryptocurrencies all at the touch of a button. And now with my exclusive link, you'll save $30 on your new wallet. Better security, smarter investing, $30 in your pocket. Click on the link now and secure your better security today. So $30 off for one, $99 off for two. Best thing I love about my DCENT Wallet is you can do swaps inside of the wallet on the phone app. It makes it very, very easy to use. It supports Ethereum tokens, Solana tokens, Binance tokens, every token that you can have there. Definitely love my DCENT Wallet. And then right here, you can do futures trading with BTCC. Definitely check out the Patreon where we do, we have 8 futures trading videos, as well as exclusive content with me, Max and Crypto Future, every Thursday. And we also have an open mic night where we do themed open mic nights every Friday. Last one was passive income. Okay. And this week we're going to have another one. Definitely come over and check that out. So let's get into this interview without ado here. Go ahead and share the screen here. And here we are. Okay, conducting the interview is CoinDesk's Jen Sanasi. I believe I said that right. So let's go ahead here and listen to the interview. We're going to do a little bit faster speed, so we can get out of here a little bit before an hour. You know what I mean? So let's do this at a faster speed so we can inhale this and still not let this video be too long. So let's listen here and let's go.
Video discussion. We are live on CoinDesk's X and YouTube accounts. And today we're in a discussion that's titled State of the Blockchain Nation. I'm joined by U.S. Congressman Bryon Donalds and Metallicus CEO Marshall Hayner. Good evening to you both. We're getting into the evening now. It's been a long Monday, but here we are. I'm excited for this discussion.
Yeah, so am I. It's good to be here.
All right, I want to start at a very high level for this discussion. For folks who are watching this video, I think it's important for them to understand where you're both coming from. So, Congressman, I'm going to start with you. Just give us a really quick tidbit. Why does crypto resonate with you? I know you really have been a proponent for crypto in your position. Talk to me a little bit about why it resonates with you.
For me, it's really one overarching reason and a bunch of underlying ones. The first is that it's really a holder, and what it can be is a holder of value outside of the dollar, and also outside of some of your traditional metals, whether that be gold, silver, or other types of commodities. And I think that in the digital landscape, which is not going anywhere, it's only going to continue to grow, become far more dynamic and interwoven in the lives of Americans, giving people the ability to be able to maintain some semblance of value for the money that they earn from the fruits of their labor, their ingenuity, et cetera. That to me is just common sense policy for everybody. I think it's a backdrop to that. I have a lot of concerns about how the Federal Reserve has diluted purchasing power for Americans. It's something that has put our reserve currency status at risk. A lot of other issues stem from that, and that's really a
So I really like his no nonsense, like straight up, cryptocurrency is a store of value. That's like the easiest, simplest way to think of cryptocurrency. And, he also expresses some concerns about the Federal Reserve. So that's pretty interesting. And it seems to be in line with his party. I think he's a Republican, congressman. So that seems to be right in line with what, Donald Trump thinks. And we shall see how Donald Trump gets the Federal Reserve in line. He just fired someone, which I think within like someone said that hasn't happened in like over 100 years or something like that. He fired someone on the Fed. Um, you know, so that's very interesting on how that's going to work out. But I like it. Store value, it's a different type of store value, similar to metals, right? And he called it a commodity. And that's really what crypto has been deemed, really a commodity, not a security, but a commodity. Um, but also, crypto's mostly been deemed like mostly like a kind of a currency, really. But we shall see how Donald Trump goes with the taxing of crypto. If they view it like a currency, they may not tax it, so there may not be any capital gains taxes, excuse me, on it. So that would be the best case scenario. Even Eric Trump said, hey, zero capital gains tax on American cryptos. He said that was coming. So after this Clarity Act gets passed, we shall see if it actually comes. Okay. So the Genius Act is passed and it's given us things, lending platforms like Metallicus' lending platform. But let's see what happens here. Once the Clarity Act is passed, will we get zero capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies?
a protection hedge for a lot of people. The third thing is that what we're seeing in this new industry of digital assets, of course, of which cryptocurrency is a part, there are a lot of fledgling entrepreneurs from all walks of life. And some people call it the new gold rush. Like we're
Okay,
creating a bunch of
one thing I just want to make clear too, um, cryptocurrencies, um, if they're not deemed securities, right? Public officials do not have to report on them. Whereas stocks, public officials do need to report stocks, the stocks they're in. So think about how that could be for government officials. If zero capital gains tax is put on cryptocurrencies and they're not deemed securities, they can hold as many as they want and they don't have to report it to the public, which I think that's fine. And I think that really bodes well to the fact of if zero capital gains tax get passed, people think that's gonna like they'll never get passed because it'll benefit too many little people or so to speak, right? No. The people who's gonna benefit the most are corporations and also pro crypto Congress people, and elected officials. Okay. So let's continue.
of new 49ers out here in this space. But you have to give that industry an opportunity to thrive and to flourish, to see what it truly can be, what it can, what heights can it reach, what type of efficiencies it brings to markets, whether that's just purely financial or technology markets or the economy overall. And I think that it would be imprudent for government regulation to impede that growth simply because members of Congress and staffers on Capitol Hill don't know what it is, or B, they want to treat it as a boogeyman for more of the current regulatory regime, which is so centered on consumer protections that it stifles innovation and it stifles the free flowing of capital. So that's why I'm where I am.
We're going to come back and dive a little bit deeper.
So he seems, of course, pro crypto. Okay. And Remember, this is before the election, right? This was before Donald Trump got elected. So there was still some questions. Okay, like where does Kamala Harris even stand on crypto? We know Donald Trump and Donald Trump and people like he's with, like Robert Kennedy, seem to be at the very least, very, very clear about Bitcoin. And, flash forward, we're in the future now. We know Donald Trump, has his own crypto agency with DJT, which is publicly traded on the stock market. He's bought into like Ethereum. He's bought into Athena. He's bought Tron. He's bought a few different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. So we know he's all in, as well as him and Melania launched their own meme coins. So we know Trump's really all in, right? So we're very clear that Donald Trump supports crypto. Okay, so yeah, let's continue here.
Into some of those issues in just a moment. And for anyone who's just joining our live discussion here, we're live on X and YouTube, and you have the ability to comment. So if you have any questions or comments for the Congressman or Marshall, please feel free to put them below this video, and maybe we will get to them if you are not trolling us. Marshall, I'm going to kick it off to you now. I know that you come from a little bit more of a crypto native background. One of the people who was an early Doge supporter, I believe. Talk to me a little bit about why crypto resonates with you.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm a patriot. I'm an American. I believe in freedom of speech and the Constitution, and I believe access to to your money is part of that.
So again, he says he's an American. Okay, I really, really, really do believe that for American cryptos, they're going to pass this zero capital gains tax. And can you imagine how that's going to affect the crypto market? Can you imagine how that's going to affect the crypto market? We already know the companies like Hedera, and if you check out the World Economic Forum website, it says they're owned and governed by the largest companies in the world. So of course they will benefit if it says, zero capital gains tax. They will benefit from that. So I really think that's something that gets passed for American cryptocurrencies, but which Metallicus is one of, right?
Cryptocurrency for me was so exciting because it was kind of the discovering the internet of money. It's a new technology. It doesn't have to be constrained to just Bitcoin or one digital asset. It's a technology. And one of the things that I frequently say is that cryptocurrency in particular.
And it's tech. It is tech. And that's the thing that I think that the Bitcoin maxis kind of miss. I know they try to say, oh, well, Bitcoin unhampered, like a, BSV and stuff like that. Sorry about that. BSV and stuff like that. That's fine. That technology is great. So, but, it definitely seems, if you've used the tech, it seems like XRP is better. And when you think about all the different areas, things like payroll with ZEBEC, things like, world mobile token, and what they're trying to do as far as like connecting people and getting infrastructure down, Metallicus and what they're trying to do, connecting TradFi to DeFi. There's so many pieces, right? And I think that Bitcoin maxis kind of miss that point, that there's so many pieces connected than just Bitcoin. So if you think of everything other than Bitcoin as, a crap coin, you're really kind of missing it. I see why they think that, because, a lot of meme coins are just, crap coins. They are crap coins. But when you look at things like ISO 20022 coins, and you see all the laws that have been written for them, all the different organizations as far as the World Bank and things like that they're connected to, ISO standards, you clearly realize that there's a difference between ISO coins and that real cryptocurrency, that blockchain, and like fake meme crap coins. And Jamie Dimon started to make that distinction where he's like, we've been using blockchain forever, but crypto is a thing that we don't believe in. And he believes that Bitcoin, quote unquote, is crypto. So I don't know about that with Jamie Dimon, you know what I mean? Because he was also found to have owned some Bitcoin at some time. But, Marshall is going to make that distinction here. And I definitely do think there's a distinction between like crypto as far as meme coins go, like Daddy Coin or Hot Tua Coin, and like H bar and freaking Dogecoin and ZEBEC and things like that. There's definitely a big distinction between those. Okay, so let's continue here.
Particular and Bitcoin act as a litmus test of freedom. So when you look at other countries that ban this technology, that limit this technology, they tend to be authoritarian regimes that don't want to allow people to really own their own money. And so that is something that was very exciting for me. But more so, I grew up as a child of the internet, and when I discovered Bitcoin in late 2009, I struggled with the idea of how does this work with the financial system, and it took me a few weeks to understand that it's just a transparent public ledger of accounting that's unalterable. And that was so exciting because I realized in that moment, this is going to replace all the modern systems. Everything is going to connect to that transparent, unalterable ledger. And we'll have different types of systems. We'll have certainly different types of digital assets. Dogecoin, for me, why I got involved in Dogecoin was because, believe it or not, after a few years of the cryptocurrency space expanding, people got too serious, in my opinion, about Bitcoin, and they kind of scared some of the outsiders in that we couldn't have fun with this technology. So Dogecoin emerged as a joke that I think brought a lot of young people into it. And they are, from a technology standpoint, the same code base, Bitcoin and Dogecoin. So I think it was just an exciting thing for me. But expanding there and building my company with Metallicus, our goal.
Here about the joke with Dogecoin. People keep saying that Dogecoin is a joke, and I respectfully, I respectfully a little bit differ to with Marshall here. So if you guys believe that Dogecoin is a joke, because people always tend to say, "Oh, that's just a joke," and that's just a joke, or this is just a joke. So we tend to overlook jokes or to let jokes slide. Now, if you think Dogecoin is a joke and you overlook it, understand, Marshall has support for this joke on Metallicus. You can send money to Metallicus with Dogecoin. There's support for Dogecoin on his network. Dogecoin, this joke, is custodied by people like, I believe, Anchorage Digital custodies Doge. We can look that up, but I know multiple different custody organizations custody Doge. So if you overlook this joke, I think it's going to be, the joke is on you if you overlook this joke, okay? You see what I'm saying? So it's just like Elon Musk saying, well, AI is going to be the end to us all, but yeah, he's invested in open AI, right? You know what I mean? So not that I'm necessarily disagreeing with Marshall. Let's just say that if you guys think this is a joke, just don't overlook it. Okay, what I mean? That's what I'm saying about Dogecoin. Okay, so let's continue here.
Metallicus is building the digital banking network, or so we call it, and we want to connect traditional finance to Web3 through the blockchain in a compliant manner, and innovate responsibly. As I've heard that tagline thrown out before from those in government, but I believe that this technology will completely revolutionize the world.
I think everyone in the industry is saying that we want to innovate responsibly, and we just need
the outsiders in that we couldn't have fun with this technology. So Dogecoin emerged as a joke that I think brought a lot of young people into it. And they are, from a technology standpoint, the same code base, Bitcoin and Dogecoin. So I think it was just an exciting thing for me. But expanding there and building my company with Metallicus, our goal at Metallicus is building the digital banking network, or so we call it. And we want to connect traditional finance to Web3 through the blockchain in a compliant manner, and innovate responsibly. As I've heard that tagline thrown out before from those in government. But I believe that this technology will completely revolutionize the world.
I think everyone in the industry is saying that we want to innovate responsibly, and we just need the right guardrails to do that. Congressman, I want to come back to you. This discussion is called The State of Blockchain Nation. Since consensus happened earlier this year, I talked to SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce there, and she said that she just didn't really think that folks in Washington cared that much about this industry. They didn't care that much to get educated to make the progress that I think both of you just outlined there. Talk to me about the state of Blockchain Nation. What does it look like now? Do those comments resonate with you?
The comments actually, I believe, are emblematic of a lot of Capitol Hill. Like I said earlier, I think it's an issue where a lot of members simply just don't know what it is, or they've heard vagaries about it. They've not taken the time. And let me be extra clear, their staffs have not taken the time to really understand the cryptocurrency space, the digital asset space. So I think when you talk about the state of blockchain nation, we're in a serious holding pattern. And forgive me, not even forgive me, I'm just going to talk straight to you. I'm gonna get a little political. In the current environment right now, you have two candidates running for president. Donald Trump has been very clear about what his position is with respect to the digital assets industry. He wants to make sure that the regulatory environment is focused and scoped so that it allows for the flourishing of the entire industry. I don't think he doesn't really want, and I know I don't want, a picking and choosing of a certain currency or a certain stable coin. You know, he really wants to see it flourish and grow.
And so far, he's been doing that. You know what I mean? The price movement might not be what people think it should be, but he's been doing that. The Genius Act has allowed for lending platforms like Metallicus's loan and their metal lending to exist. Okay, they would not be able to do advertisements for it. They would not be able to have it legally in the United States if not for the Genius Act. So the Genius Act makes it so that those platforms can exist. Also makes it so those platforms can connect with TradFi. Okay. The Ripple case has ended under Donald Trump. Okay. They've said it's ended. Has the judge officially signed something yet? I'm not quite sure. But Ripple has already, they already put out something, or at least retweeted something where both sides said they agreed to kind of sign off. Okay. So I don't think the judge has officially signed off yet, but, both sides have agreed to end it. Okay. So let's continue here.
My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I guess now led by Vice President Harris, they're murky at best about what their viewpoints are on digital assets. When you talk to Democrats on the Financial Services Committee, where I sit on, they are mostly opposed to even creating a regulatory environment for the digital asset space. And what that means is it makes it incredibly difficult to raise capital and expand business operations and create business opportunities in the United States if there's not at least a basic regulatory structure.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that. We saw bipartisan support for FIT21. I've had Congressman Ro Khanna talk to me on CoinDesk, who is really, behind bipartisan support for crypto. A lot of the things you've said, I think that he might agree with. Is that changing? Are there more Democrats who are maybe stopping, taking a pause to listen and getting educated to come on board with some of the things that you've been talking about for a little while now?
Well, I would say Roe I would say is in the minority within his own party when it comes to digital assets. He's very forward thinking when it comes to digital assets. So is Richie Torres, who's on financial services with me. Jake Auchincloss is another member on the Democrat side of the aisle who's very open to it. But then you have roadblocks. And not with Jake, I don't want to say he's open, he's supportive. Jake Auchincloss is supportive. I want to be clear on that. But you still have Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Brad Sherman, sort of the legacy Democrat leadership who is opposed to something like FIT21. FIT21 does have bipartisan support, but in terms of the leadership lines in the Democrat
So
Party,
we know
that's where
here
the bipartisanship comes to an end. And and again, look, this is obviously about cryptocurrencies in particular, but also the blockchain nation.
We know that the Democratic Party hasn't really supported cryptocurrency. Their leaders have not supported cryptocurrency, so that's something he's right on, right? But again, this flash forward in the future, the Republicans have the House, they have the Senate. You know what I mean? So really, they could pass all these bills without Democratic help. So they could pass all the bills. It seems as though since they won the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they could pass these bills without Democratic help. So let's continue.
It's important for people who are large supporters of blockchain and digital assets and cryptocurrencies to understand that in this presidential cycle, the next president is going to have a major say in how the regulatory environment is going to be shaped for the digital assets industry. I don't know what Kamala Harris's position is because she won't answer questions to anybody. So I don't know what her position is. When I look at this industry in particular, we have, in my view, the potential for a $1 to $3 trillion industry in the United States. It could be massively more depending on the technology. I don't know because I can't predict it. That's where you have a new industry that has so much potential. The only thing I'll add, and I'll stop. I don't want to filibuster. The only other thing I'll add is that coinciding with a robust digital assets industry in the United States is the need for massive amounts of baseload power to support the technological advancement. And so you're going to need a resurgence of nuclear power in our country. You're going to need a resurgence and an expansion of natural gas capabilities in our country to create the electricity baseload you need in order to support the technology as it grows, not just in terms of dollar size in the economy, but with power consumption to support all the servers and all the equipment necessary.
Marshall, I want to kick it over to you now and talk about cryptos. I guess growing role, the growing spotlight on crypto in the upcoming election. Some numbers that came out recently said that the crypto industry accounts for nearly half of corporate spending for the upcoming election. I mean, if I were to tell you a year ago that this would be the state of corporate funding for the election, would you be surprised?
I absolutely would believe it. I've been involved in crypto when it was just a hobby, when the only conferences were, tops 30 people in a room together. And now I've watched as, I've seen events go into the thousands of people filling large conference halls. Like AI and like Congressman said, energy is needed, not only for proof of work, but for many innovations in the US. And it's very important that we manage that energy policy responsibly. I absolutely see the potential because blockchain really, in some ways, is disrupting one of the oldest industries, which is banking. And I believe that it will.
So blockchain is disrupting banking. It does affect energy. You know what I mean? I think we hit at a time when you look at different tokens like Energy Web token, right? Those tokens will be able to commoditize, take commodities and sell them around the world. So blockchain will affect energy. Okay. It's just a matter of time when all of these laws are in place. The things like Energy Web token and things like that will fly.
Ultimately be the underlying technology that connects banks and financial institutions globally. Will it be Bitcoin? There are a lot of people that would say, yeah, I would like for it to be that, but I'm a multi-chain believer. I'm working on a blockchain myself called Metal Blockchain that's trying to connect credit unions and banks. I believe that
Did you see that? That's it right there. Did you see that smile from Congressman Donalds when he said, I'm working on a blockchain myself that's trying to connect. He knows what's going on with Metallicus, right? That made me so bullish. I went and bought some more Metallicus right after I saw that, bro. Right after I saw that. Let's just play that one more time, and we're gonna slow it down to real speed so you can see that. This is so juicy to me right here.
Blockchain really, in some ways, is disrupting one of the oldest industries, which is banking. And I believe that it will ultimately be the underlying technology that connects banks and financial institutions globally. Will it be Bitcoin? There are a lot of people that would say, yeah, I would like for it to be that, but I'm a multi-chain believer. I'm working on a blockchain myself called Metal Blockchain that's trying to connect credit unions and banks.
You see that? He already knows, man. He already knows. It's connecting credit unions and banks. He already knows.
And I believe that it will ultimately be the underlying technology that connects banks and financial institutions globally. Will it be Bitcoin? There are a lot of people that would say, yeah, I would like for it to be that, but I'm a multi-chain believer. I'm working on a blockchain myself called Metal Blockchain that's trying to connect credit unions and banks. I believe that the marriage of these two technologies will bring together just a complete sea change. If you think about where corporations were 30 years ago, with snail mail and fax machines and things that the modern generation probably doesn't even know what they are. That's what is happening with money. And if it wasn't a big deal, then no one would care. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't see those stats that you just mentioned, but there is big money involved. And it's hard to imagine that this is just the tip of the spear or the iceberg, but it's so much larger than you can see. And I think there are certain areas like AI and blockchain that over the next 10 to 15 years will become, as Congressman said, multi-trillion-dollar industries. I think it's important to separate Bitcoin and digital assets between the technology as well. There's crypto and there's blockchain, but we need coherent.
So there he is with the clip crypto. There's crypto and then there's blockchain. Okay. So get that distinction, guys, now. For 99% of the public, they don't know any different. They know no different. They'll just, all crypto, they don't know any difference, right? But now when you hear certain buzzwords, when you hear people say certain things and they're saying, oh, I don't like crypto. I don't like crypto. What they may be talking about is the Haktua coins, the daddy coins. But then when you hear them say something later and they talk about blockchain, or maybe they just say distributed ledger technology, or maybe they even say hash graphs or something like that, and 99% of the people will not know that they're talking about an H bar. They're talking about ZEBEC. They're talking about Solana, Algorand, Ethereum, right? 99% of the people will not know that they're talking about, quote unquote, what most people think is crypto, right? So just get that distinction and understand what they mean when they say those buzzwords.
Federal and state regulation and legislation on both ends. And I believe that there is a lot of regulation around money that applies to cryptocurrency, but I think we need to go further and to take this kind of blanket approach where we say we don't need to change anything.
And see, it almost seems to me like he already knows that regulation is coming. Man, I wish I would have seen this interview when it first came out, man. But hey, we're not late to the party. We could have been earlier, right? Well, actually, I've been talking about this since before this video came out. I was talking about Metallicus, to be honest with you. So, shout out to the Blackrue Crew. But I wish I'd seen this video when it first came out. This is amazing. It's almost like he knows that laws are going to change, right? Let's continue.
That's wrong. We're now in 2024 applies to cryptocurrency, but I think we need to go further and to take this kind of, Congressman said, multi-trillion-dollar industries. I think it's important to separate Bitcoin and digital assets between the technology as well. There's crypto and there's blockchain, but we need coherent federal and state regulation and legislation on both ends. And I believe that there is a lot of regulation around money that applies to cryptocurrency, but I think we need to go further and to take this kind of blanket approach where we say we don't need to change anything. That's wrong. We're now in 2024. We need to adapt with the policies around money, around digital assets. And like Congressman said, I think I look at both parties. I never would have really before have said, one party or the other party. But when I look at the parties just from the issue of cryptocurrency, I see one party that is making very concise statements and another party that is, creating a crypto campaign, but only as a reaction to probably what you just said, that the fundraising elements. And this aspect of cryptocurrency being in the public eye is becoming a national issue. It'll be a national security issue. It'll be an issue of finance and technology. And I think to ignore it would be a big mistake.
But isn't the reality here, to get any movement on legislation in the United States, we need both parties to be on the same page, at least with this issue, regardless of who is president or what each party says in the run up to the election?
Well, real quick, and I don't know if that was for Marshall, but Jen, I'll just say real quick before I come to your question, Jen. What Marshall is saying about companies and technology is absolutely correct. I don't even think, I'm 45 years old, so unless you're my age, you probably know what a Blockbuster video is. Most people, if you're 20, you're like, what? You actually had to go to the store to get a video?
I reminisce
watch a movie
about
like
Blockbuster videos.
that was a thing, but it was. But Blockbuster didn't want to innovate for whatever the reasons were. Redbox came along, people were getting DVDs in the mail and at gas stations, and now even Redbox is kind of a thing of the past, and now we completely move it to streaming. At any rate, innovation is a wonderful thing and should always be encouraged, not discouraged. I think specific to your question, Jen, if you look at some of the major pieces of financial regulation that have passed in the modern era, Dodd-Frank is the last recent one. That one was done with all Democrat control in both chambers and with Barack Obama at the time. Sarbanes-Oxley, I believe that was during the Clinton administration. You had some bipartisanship around Sarbanes-Oxley, but not much. It was mostly driven by the White House. So these major shifts in new regulation in the financial industry typically are led by the White House. So the White House will lead it, and then one party, and it's just the way it is, one party will typically take most ownership of that regulation. I think that when you're looking at this space going forward, who's sitting in those chairs is going to largely determine what the regulation is going to look like. And that's why the fundraising that obviously has started in the digital assets cryptocurrency space, married with the proposals from both campaigns and from people who are running down ballot in states, that stuff really, really matters. Like Ohio is the perfect example. You have Bernie Moreno's challenging Sherrod Brown, until this year, campaign season, I might add, his positions on cryptocurrency, blockchain, and digital assets have been very, I would say, tough to the industry until right now, because he's trying to win his Senate seat again.
At this moment, it seems as though, in the future now, the Republicans run the House and the Senate and the presidency. So there should not need to be any Democratic votes to get anything passed, but should it need to be, we shall see. And as far as we had cryptocurrency companies voting, not voting, but
donating to both sides. I think Chris Larson gave some money to freaking Kamala, and I think some some Ripple guys gave some money to Trump. So it's but flash forward where we are right now. President Trump met with Stuart Alderati and Brad Garlinghouse. That picture in front of the ZEBEC, right? As we are right now, it seems like everything is in place for cryptocurrency to get the laws that it needs, right? So let's continue.
Yeah. So those are the type of dynamics that are occurring right now. So all these races do matter in terms of the future of the industry.
I think you make a valid point there, Congressman Marshall. I'm going to bring it back over to you. I know that Metallicus is a fully remote company, and just clear this up for me. It is a U.S.-based company, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So from that perspective, I mean, tell me a little bit more about the regulatory environment in the United States. Is there anything that, you wake up, you go to work every day, you're operating this business, you have employees, you have customers, you have partners. Is there anything that scares you because of the regulatory uncertainty?
Yeah, and just to go back to your previous question as well, I want to see more support from the Democratic side as well. There's great work being done by Gillibrand and Rokana and Richie Torres, and there's a lot of great work being done, but unfortunately it has fallen a little quiet on that side, and I'd like to see more, and I agree. In terms of how difficult it's been for the crypto space, I can't understate how, I really can't understate it. It is, if you're in this space and you remain in the space for the past couple of years, you really like it. You're really passionate about this space because no other startup scene would, unfortunately it has fallen a little quiet on that side, and I'd like to see more, and I agree. In terms of how difficult it's been for the crypto space, I can't understate how, I really can't understate it. It is, if you're in this space and you remain in the space for the past couple of years, you really like it. You're really passionate about this space because no other startup scene would go through the pressure and stress that the blockchain space has gone through. Just simply getting a bank account as a company that interfaces with crypto is next to impossible. Working with financial services companies is very difficult. Metallicus has really, I frequently say, had to work 10 times as hard as a normal fintech startup to establish and maintain these relationships. And from the regulatory standpoint, there's a lot of risk because the landscape is being formed right now and it's rapidly evolving. And to go back to what I said earlier, I look at cryptocurrency as a litmus test for freedom. That might sound a little cheesy, but it's true. In Russia and North Korea wants to steal your crypto, but they don't want to give it to their citizens because that would make them free. And so, we're at a pivotal point in the United States where do we go the direction that crypto is self-hosted wallets are not allowed? Do we go a direction where there's no clarity and we push this multi-trillion-dollar industry to Europe and UAE and other places? Or do we embrace it as the software leader that we are, the global software leader that we are, Silicon Valley? That's where you'll find many of the startups in the blockchain space, and anybody that's working in the space will spend some time there at some point. And at one point, I housed my company in San Francisco physically, and we had an office downtown and everything, and then COVID hit, and I realized, given the global nature of blockchain, my co-founder and CTO is Belgian, that let's start to make things a little more remote, and I think a lot of companies did that. And that is, I think that's one of the powers of blockchain. But we really have to keep the innovation here in the United States. If we send a message to our entrepreneurs in the crypto and blockchain space that
and this is something that President Trump has been saying, they want to keep the innovation here in the United States. They want to have America be the crypto capital of the world, of the realm. So hey, so far he's been delivering on that promise, and I don't see any reason why he won't continue.
That America doesn't want you, then there's so many jobs being lost, so much in revenue that's being lost. And it's really hard to measure because it's not just those things. It's everything that's going to come after that. And imagine if the United States was not the leader around internet technology. Imagine if we were, Silicon Valley didn't exist. How would that affect the economy today? And I would say that.
And guess who, what's the family behind Silicon Valley? The Draper family, okay? Tim Draper, we know he's invested in, at least in ZEBEC, via Coinbase Ventures. But Metallicus, are there any direct connections? I had to do some research on that to see if there are any connections to Tim Draper and Metallicus. But we know there are for ZEBEC. I'll have to do some deep diving to see if there are some Draper connections to Metallicus.
That it would be absolutely detrimental if we had.
But yes, Tim Draper's family, they're responsible for creating Silicon Valley.
Crushed the internet 20 years ago.
That is a valid point. I just want to reintroduce ourselves.
And Silicon Valley, they basically led the charge for creating the internet there. So
reintroduce ourselves to the audience. Some folks who
economy today, and I would say that it would be absolutely detrimental if we had crushed the internet 20 years ago.
That is a valid point. I just want to reintroduce ourselves to the audience. Some folks who may have joined halfway through, we were talking about the state of the blockchain nation here on this live discussion. If you have any questions, just pop them under the video and we'll be sure to direct them to the right panelist. There is a question here from James Barnett. Congressman, I believe this is for you. And I think you spoke to it earlier on in the conversation. It's possible that this person joined a little bit later. They say, are there any plans within the Republican camp to push the pro-digital asset message more?
Okay, so I think this is a good place to stop. If you guys want to see the rest of the video, definitely come over here and see it, because we're already kind of long in the tooth with this video here at 40 minutes. But I think right there we just understand that smile. That smile said so freaking much to me about what's going on with you know, Metallicus. Like, that smile, if we could just go back to that one second here. I know where the timestamp is. That smile said so much to me. Like, I want to buy like even more Metallicus now.
And I believe that it will ultimately be the underlying technology that connects banks and financial institutions globally. Will it be Bitcoin? There are a lot of people that would say, yeah, I would like for it to be that, but I'm a multi-chain believer. I'm working on a blockchain myself called Metal Blockchain that's trying to connect credit unions and banks. I believe
he already knows. He already knows, bro. Oh my goodness. How bullish are you on Metallicus? What do you think about the congressman smiling
technology that connects banks and financial institutions globally? Will it be Bitcoin? There are a lot of people that would say, yeah, I would like for it to be that, but I'm a multi-chain believer. I'm working on a blockchain myself called Metal Blockchain that's trying to connect credit unions and banks.
Bro, I almost want to make this the thumbnail. Let me know what you guys think about Metallicus. Let me know what you guys think about Loan Protocol. Let me know what you think about Metal and MTL token. What's your favorite token? And definitely catch us when we do the DCENT Wallet AMA, which we're going to do on either the 2nd or 3rd. Just be tuned in for that, where we're going to give away free wallets. So, a few will come to you guys and maybe a few to the patrons. Definitely be on the lookout for that in my community posts. Definitely be on the lookout for that in my next, few videos. Thank you guys so much. Love to hear your opinions in the comments. I'm out, guys. Peace.